She walked like a queen, elegant and calm. Her steps were light, her face soft, her voice gentle. To anyone watching, she looked like a high-class lady of the empire. But no one knew the truth, not even those who bowed to her when she passed. Her name was Kyra, though even she had forgotten it. In this alien empire, she was simply called Unit 7P, a personal companion assigned to serve the royal guests obedient. Flawless, silent, she wore silk dresses, diamond collars, and golden bangles. But none of them were gifts, they were chains. Kyra smiled all the time. That was her training, even when her hands ached from cleaning. Even when her skin burned under strange chemicals, even when the prince's guests treated her like a doll. She smiled, because if she didn't, she'd be punished that morning. The palace was glowing with lights and music. A powerful human diplomat had arrived from the outer systems. It was rare for humans to visit, even rarer to step inside the royal palace. Kyra was chosen to serve him for the next 5 days. The guards whispered behind her back, "She's lucky. She gets to serve a human maybe he'll give her a tip," but Kyra only kept her head down. She had served hundreds of guests. No one had ever looked into her eyes. Why would this man be any different? The banquet began in a massive hall. Golden floors reflected the glowing blue chandeliers above. Kyra stood behind the human's chair with a jug of crystal wine. She poured it quietly, without a word, as she had been trained. But then he looked up, not at the wine, not at the food, at her. His eyes didn't scan her body like others did. He didn't bark orders or snap fingers. He simply asked, "What's your name?" Kyra froze for a second, just a blink. She almost dropped the jug. She forced a smile and replied, "Unit 7P, sir." The human frowned. "That's not a name." She didn't respond. Her heart beat faster. He didn't press further, but his expression had changed, confused, almost sad. For the rest of the dinner, he didn't speak to her again. But every now and then, she caught him glancing at her. And every time, she quickly looked away. That night, the halls of the palace were quiet. Most guests were asleep, but Kyra wasn't. She sat alone by the grand window, watching the twin moons rise. Her chains didn't clink. They were silent, invisible. They were the kind that wrapped around the soul. She thought about what the human said. "What's your name?" That question kept repeating in her head like a song she couldn't stop. A name. She once had one, long ago, when she was still free, before her planet was conquered, before her mother was taken, before she became someone's property. Her eyes welled up. She quickly wiped her tears before any cameras saw, but she didn't notice. Someone was watching. The human had stepped out into the hallway for some fresh air. And now he stood quietly behind a pillar. He saw her tears. He heard her soft, broken sobs. He didn't move, didn't speak, but he didn't walk away either. Kyra sensed him. She turned suddenly and saw him standing there. For a moment, she panicked. She was not allowed to speak to guests alone. Not allowed to cry. Not allowed to sit without permission. She stood up quickly and bowed. "Forgive me, Master." He raised a hand gently. "Don't call me that," he said. She looked up, unsure. "You're crying. Do you need help?" No one had ever asked her that. Not in all the years she served. Help? Her lips trembled. She wanted to lie, to say she was fine, but something inside her broke. "Something small, but real," she whispered, voice shaking. "If I asked for help, would you listen?" He nodded slowly. Kyra stepped closer, her voice even softer now. "Will you report me, or will you help me escape?" The hallway turned cold. The palace walls seemed to close in, and the silence between them grew heavy. The human didn't answer right away. He looked into her eyes, really. Looked, and for the first time in years, she felt seen. But helping her could mean war. Helping her could mean death. He knew that. And yet, He reached out his hand. He didn't sleep that night. The palace room given to him was large and soft, but his mind was louder than the silence. Her words echoed in his head. Will you report me? Or help me escape? His name was Commander Rin Carter. He came here to sign a peace treaty, not to break laws, not to get involved, but how could he forget her face? Kyra wasn't just a servant. She was trapped in a golden cage, smiling, yes but. Her soul was screaming. By morning, he made a decision. He wouldn't report her, but freeing her. That was something else. This empire had rules carved in blood. Slaves weren't just workers. They were trophies, specially personal companions. Taking her away would be like stealing the emperor's jewel. And yet, Carter couldn't let it go. He met with an old friend, a smuggler named Kellen, who owed him a favor. Getting out of this palace won't be easy, Kellen said. But for you, I'll do it one last job. The plan was risky. During the Empire's moonlight ceremony, everyone would be focused on the skies. That's when Carter would fake Kyra's death using a chemical that stops the heart for a short time. She'd be dead for 15 minutes. Enough time to get her body into a sealed crate. Then Kellen's ship would carry her away while Carter stayed behind to finish his mission. But one problem remained. Kyra didn't know if she wanted to be free. That night, Carter returned to the servant quarters. He slipped past guards and cameras using Kellen's cloaking tech. Kyra was alone, brushing her silver-white hair. When she saw him, she didn't smile. She just whispered, "Why are you here?" Again, he placed a small vial on the table. "This will make your heart stop," he said. "For just a while, you'll seem dead. They'll throw you out like trash. And Kellen will take you far from here." She stared at the vial. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. "You risk your life." "For someone like me," she asked. "I don't know you. Don't know me." "I know enough," Carter replied. "I know you're not property. I know you're alive, and you deserve better." She closed her eyes. "I haven't made a choice for myself in years," she said. "I don't know what freedom feels like." He stepped closer. "Then let's find out together the next." Evening, the skies lit up with dancing lights. It was the night of twin moons, a sacred time, while the palace looked up. One girl went down. Kyra lay quietly on a cold marble table in the servant hall. Carter stood over her, holding the vial. "Are you sure?" he asked one last time. She nodded slowly, her voice barely a breath. "If I don't do this, I'll die slowly anyway." He pressed the vial to her lips. She drank it, her breath slowed, her body went still, and then nothing. She looked dead. Even Carter's hands shook as he checked her pulse. None. He wrapped her in a simple cloth and lifted her like she weighed nothing. He walked calmly through the halls, passing guards who didn't even glance at him. Just another body being disposed of at the trash bay. Kellen was waiting in a black cloak. "She looks too peaceful," Kellen muttered. Carter placed her in the crate, sealed it, and nodded. "Get her out." No mistakes. Kellen vanished into the night. And Carter turned back toward the palace. His mission wasn't over. He had to stay and finish the treaty, make it all look normal. But his heart was gone with that crate. Meanwhile, aboard the smugglers' ship, Kyra's body lay motionless. Minutes passed, then 10, then 12. Kellen began to panic. What if she doesn't wake up? But then a weak cough. Her chest rose slowly, eyes opened, dazed. Scared but alive, she was breathing, for the first time in years. As a free woman, she touched her chest and whispered, "I'm not dead. I'm free, but freedom has a cost." The Empire soon found out she was missing, and they sent out a bounty. A very high one, dead or alive, and back at the palace. One of the alien commanders approached Carter and growled, "There's a slave missing. A very important one." Carter's heart pounded, but his face didn't show it. He simply said, "I hope you find her." Kyra opened her eyes inside darkness. The crate smelled like old metal and dust. Her heart beat fast, too fast like. It didn't believe it was allowed to work freely. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. Then she heard a day voice. "You're awake," said the smuggler, Kellen, from behind the pilot seat. She tried to sit up, but her body felt heavy. Her skin was cold, but her soul burned. Kellen pressed a few buttons and soft lights lit the room. "You scared me back there," he said, handing her water. "I thought maybe that vial had done more than it should." Kira took the cup with shaking hands. She drank slowly, like someone afraid it might be poisoned, then whispered, "Did he stay behind?" Kellen nodded. "Yeah. Said he had unfinished business. Told me to take care of you. Now you're my cargo princess." He smirked. She looked down at her bare feet. No palace floor beneath her. No silent cameras watching. For the first time, she felt like she was really somewhere else, but freedom. Didn't feel soft. It felt strange, uncomfortable, like wearing shoes the wrong way. She stared out the window. Stars blinked outside like tiny eyes. Each one looked like a path she'd never been allowed to take. Now she had choices, but didn't know what to choose. 3 days passed in silence. Kyra barely spoke. She stayed in the back room of Kellen's ship, trying to understand what she was now. Not a slave, but not yet free either. Kellen brought food, asked questions, cracked jokes, but Kyra only nodded or shook her head until one day. She found something hidden behind old crates. A mirror cracked in the middle. She stared at her reflection. Her silver hair was messy. Her glowing blue eyes looked tired. But the collar was gone. No marks, no tag, no number. Just her. Whoever that was. That night, she sat near the front window where Kellen flew. He raised an eyebrow. Surprised to see her there. "You sure you want to see the view?" She nodded. "I've never seen the stars like this." As mine, they didn't talk much. After that, but something changed. She was becoming someone again. Then came the signal. A loud beep across the control panel. Kellen cursed under his breath. "They found us." Kyra jumped to her feet. "Who?" Kellen didn't answer right away. He pointed to a blinking red icon. "Empire warship. Medium-sized, fast. Probably bounty hunters." Kyra froze. Her breath caught in her throat. "They're after me," she said quietly. Kellen nodded. "They want you dead or captured, and I don't plan on giving them either." He pushed the ship into high speed, stars turning into lines of light. But the warship followed, matching speed. "They've got a tracker, maybe something inside you," he said. Her hands flew to her chest. "No," Carter said, "wait." She remembered something in the palace during her first years. They had taken her to a cold white room. She was unconscious, but when she woke up, her back hurt deep inside her spine. "I think there's something inside me," she whispered. Kellen's face turned pale. "A spine tracker," he said. "If it's still active, they'll follow us anywhere. We need to get it out fast." "But how?" Kira asked, panicked. He turned sharply toward a small desert moon. "There's a doctor there. She doesn't ask questions, but it's not safe." "I don't care," Kira said, her voice stronger than before. "If they catch me, I'm not going back. I'll die first." The ship landed rough, dust flying in all directions. The doctor, an old alien woman with 4 arms, greeted them at the door. "What is it this time, Kellen?" "Spine tracker," he said. "Deep one." She glanced at Kira, her eyes sharp and tired. "She won't survive the pain without full sleep gas." Kira stepped forward. "No gas. If I die, I want to know I died free." The doctor stared at her, then nodded. "Brave little bird." Kyra lay on a hard metal table. The lights above were too bright, the tools too cold, but she didn't cry. She bit her lip and stayed quiet. As the doctor cut into her back, wires, lights, sparks. The pain was fire, but it was her choice. Then, silence. The tracker was out. The doctor held up the tiny metal piece. "This was your leash," she said, dropping it into Kyra's hand. Kyra looked at it, then crushed it underfoot. No more. Outside, the Empire warship scanned the planet, but the signal was gone. They had lost her. And as Kyra stood in the desert wind, bandages on her back, she looked up at the stars again. But this time, she smiled not because she was ordered to, but because she wanted to. The wind was dry on her face. The moon above was pale and silent. Kyra stood at the edge of the cliff, her bandages flapping in the breeze behind her. The smuggler's ship cooled down after a sharp escape, but inside her, something still burned. It wasn't the wound on her back. 'Twas the feeling that freedom wasn't enough. Not yet. She touched the scar beneath her shoulder blade, where the Empire's leash had once sat quiet, hidden, poisonous. They had placed it in her spine when she was only 15, without her consent, without her knowing. Trackers gone. Callan said behind her, arms crossed, but that doesn't mean they stopped looking. Kyra turned, eyes glowing faintly blue in the dark. They will never stop. She didn't say it in fear. She said it like someone finally understanding. The rules of a cruel game, they'll come with bigger ships, she said, louder threats. They'll offer gold for my head, promises of reward. Kella nodded. And some desperate soul might take the offer. Kyra clenched her fists. I don't want to run anymore. The next morning, Kellen gave her something wrapped in cloth. It was a small device with blinking lights and a metal switch. Empire Recovery Beacon, he said. They use it to track lost property. You can program it to give a false signal. If you want to buy time, Kyra looked at it. It's like sending them on a fake trail. Exactly, Kellen smirked. Make them chase shadows. Give yourself space. Kira held the beacon gently, like it was her old chain now in her hand. She reprogrammed the tracker and set it to bounce between star systems. They launched it from orbit and far away. Empire ships started racing toward empty coordinates, but the danger wasn't gone. News spread fast across the black market. A human had helped a runaway personal slave that broke at least 4 treaties and 10 galactic laws. Worse, Kyra wasn't just any slave. She had once been royalty, from a conquered world with a proud bloodline that made her symbolically powerful, dangerous. Even as a refugee, soon, bounty hunters started whispering her name. Or what they remembered of it. Kyra of the Lost Throne, Ghost Princess. Property turned queen. The price on her head was doubled, then tripled, and she knew no place would be safe. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her back still hurt. But that wasn't why. She sat by the ship's window, watching space swirl outside like a moving painting. She thought of Carter, the human who had risked everything. For her, where was he now? Did he finish his mission? Was he still alive? She hadn't heard from him since the escape, but every moment of her new life felt connected to him. His words, his eyes, the way he asked her real questions, not commands. What's your name? No one had ever cared before. He had cared enough to change her fate. Kellen found her by the window, arms around her knees, still thinking about your human. She didn't answer, but her silence said enough. I've seen slaves run, Kellen said, lighting a pipe. Most don't survive the month. But you're not just surviving, you're changing. Kyra looked up. I want to live like I was never owned, but they'll always remember, Kellen said. They'll always see what you were. Then let them watch, she replied, but I will never bow again. Suddenly, the ship alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the control panel. Kellen ran to the cockpit. What now? He shouted. Kyra followed, her heart pounding. A signal was coming in not from bounty hunters, but from a coded human military channel. The screen flickered, then glowed blue. A message appeared. This is Commander Rin Carter. If Kyra is alive, And with you, I need to speak to her, urgently. Kyra's breath caught in her throat. She touched the screen. Carter. Kellen raised an eyebrow. Well, looks like your knight's still breathing, the message repeated. He's alive, Kyra whispered. And then something else came through coordinates. A quiet planet on the edge of a dead star, far away from all Imperial lines. But there was also a warning. They know you're free, Kyra, and they know I helped you. They're coming for both of us. Kira looked up at Kellen, eyes blazing, set a course. She said, "We're going to meet him." Kellen grinned. Now this is getting exciting. As the ship jumped into light speed, Kira sat back. She wasn't just running anymore. She was returning to the man who believed in her. To the fight that was now hers to choose. And somewhere in the shadows of space, Empire warships moved like predators. But this time, they were chasing a free woman with fire in her soul. The planet was quiet. Dust clouds moved slowly across the gray sky. It had no cities, no noise, no warships, just a few broken stone homes and old farming tools buried in sand. This was where. The message led to a forgotten world with no name. And Kyra stepped off the ship like someone walking toward a memory. Kellen stayed back, guarding the ship. But Kyra walked alone through the dry wind. She wore a simple cloak now. Nothing rich, nothing royal, no collars, no labels, no orders to obey. And with every step, she felt lighter, like the weight she carried for years was melting into the dust. Then she saw him, Carter, standing near a broken archway. Waiting, his uniform was torn, his hair longer, a thin scar across his jaw, but his eyes were still kind. They stared at each other for a moment. No words, no sound. And then she walked fast, then ran straight into his arms. He held her tight, like something precious he never thought he'd see again, and she finally cried. Not from pain, but from relief. Later, they sat inside a small stone house. Carter poured her tea, simple, warm, honest. She smiled, a real smile this time. Why here? She asked, why this planet? Carter looked out the dusty window. Because no one comes here. No empire, no bounty hunters. Just quiet people, hiding from war. He turned to her. I'm building something here. A new outpost. Secret. For people like you, like me. She asked. People who are owned, caged, hurt. People who want to begin again. Kyra was quiet, then said softly, I don't even know who I am anymore. Carter stood and took a small device from the Tabala registry slate. You get to choose, he said. No more slave tags. No numbers. Just a name. A real one. She held the slate in both hands. Fingers trembling, she typed slowly, one letter at a time. Then she showed it to him. Kyra Valen. Valen, he asked. She nodded. In my old language, it means one who rises. Carter smiled, then rise. Kyra Valen, the galaxy will never chain you again. The next few days felt like a dream. She helped repair buildings, carried stone blocks, planted seeds. Her hands grew rough. Her muscles sore, but her heart felt full. No one called her unit, no one barked orders. She made her own choices when to eat, when to sleep, when to smile. Sometimes she sat by the fire at night, watching Carter from afar. She noticed how he treated the others, refugees, ex-slaves, broken soldiers, with respect, with hope. He didn't try to be a hero, he just listened. One evening, she found him alone, fixing a broken solar panel. She sat beside him and asked, Why did you come back for me? He looked at her and replied, Because the first time I saw you, I saw someone pretending to smile, and I couldn't stop thinking, what if someone had helped earlier? He paused, and maybe. I just wanted to see you smile for real, Kyra. Lowered her eyes, then, softly said, I smile now because you didn't look away. But peace never lasts long for those who've run from fire. One night, a ship landed beyond the ridge. Not Empire, but a traitor ship. A man stepped out with a scanner and saw Carter. "You're the human who freed the personal," he said. "I've heard stories. The Empire has ears everywhere." Carter stood tall. "We don't want trouble." The man laughed. "You already have it. There's a price on your head so high, it'll feed my family for years." Kyra stepped beside Carter, her voice calm, but sharp. "Then tell your family you met a woman who no longer bows." The man stared, and for a moment stepped back, then turned. "I'm no fool. I didn't see anything, but others might not be so kind." He left, and the fire in Kyra's heart burned brighter. That night, she and Carter stood outside under the stars. The wind whispered through the tall alien grass. Kyra looked at him. "What if I stayed?" "You already are," he replied. She smiled. "No, I mean, really stayed as your partner, not because you saved me, but because I chose you." Carter stepped closer, his voice low. "Then I'd stop building this outpost for others and start building a home for us." She placed her hand on his chest and whispered, "Then let's build." As equals, the past was still there. But now, she had something stronger than memory. She had a name, she had a future, and four. The first time, she had someone who saw her as a woman, not a weapon, not a tool, not a prize, just Kyra, free, alive, and loved. The morning sky turned red before dawn. Kyra stood at the top of the hill, holding a wooden staff in her hands. Her hair blew in the cold breeze. Her eyes sharp, awake, and unafraid. She wasn't wearing royal silks or soft palace clothes. She wore boots, dust on her face, and scars she no longer hid. Below her, the new outpost was coming alive. Refugees were planting, fixing walls, building something real, something that could last. But she felt something in the wind. Something was coming. She wasn't wrong that afternoon. Carter walked into the center hut with a report in his hand. His face was calm, but she saw the storm. Behind his eyes, "They're coming," he said, to Empire scouts, scanning nearby systems. "One might land soon." Kyra stood, no fear in her step. "Let them," she replied. "I'm not hiding anymore." Carter looked at her, his voice low, serious. "They're not like bounty hunters. These are trained soldiers. They'll recognize you." "I hope they do," she said. "They need to see what I've become." For the next few hours, she trained not to run but to fight. The wooden staff wasn't just a tool, it was a memory. Back before her world fell, back when she was a princess of her people, her mother taught her the staff forms of the wind. They were graceful, soft, but deadly. She had forgotten those moves for years, buried under orders and obedience. But now her body remembered. Strike, turn, sweep, breathe. Every motion carved strength back into her soul. People stopped to watch. Refugees whispered, "She moves like a warrior." She was once royal. She is again by sunset. The Empire scout ship appeared in the sky, smooth, silver, sharp like a blade. It hovered low and landed near the old ruins. Two tall soldiers stepped out, wearing black armor with glowing red eyes. They scanned the area. "This is unauthorized construction." One barked, "Show us your leader." Carter walked up calmly, but Kyra was already beside him. The soldiers froze when they saw her. The taller one's voice changed. "Unit 7P. Confirmed, you are considered stolen Empire property. Come quietly, or face destruction." Kyra stepped forward. Her voice didn't shake. "My name is Kyra Valen. I am not property. I am not yours." The soldier raised his weapon, but Kyra didn't flinch. Instead, she spun her staff once slowly, meaningfully. The second soldier whispered, She was trained. The first sneered. She was owned. "Let me remind her," he charged. Fast, brutal, but Kira moved faster. She ducked, spun low, struck his knee crack. He fell with a groan, metal scraping stone. She leaped back, her staff spinning in the air. The second soldier pulled a pulse blade, but Carter stepped in now. Blasting his gun just as the blade came up, the soldier dropped, unconscious. Silence fell over the outpost. Everyone stood still, eyes wide, hearts pounding. Then someone whispered, "She beat him." Another said, "She stood up to the Empire." Carter turned to Kyra, his voice soft, full of awe. "You didn't hesitate." She looked at her shaking hands. "I thought I'd be afraid." But I wasn't. That night, they buried the soldiers' weapons in the desert, and Kyra sat near the fire with the other women. Some were ex-servants, some survivors like her. One of them asked, "Did you always know how to fight?" Kyra smiled sadly. "No. I only remembered when I stopped trying to forget." Another woman said, "If you teach us, maybe we won't be afraid either." Kyra looked around at the tired faces, the hopeful eyes, and nodded. "Tomorrow morning, we begin." At dawn, the sound of staffs filled the air. Kyra led the training, teaching not just moves, but the idea that they were no longer powerless. She showed them how to stand, how to breathe, how to strike without hate. Not to destroy, but to defend. For once, she wasn't alone. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was leading, a teacher, a protector, a living message that no slave remains one forever. Back inside the hut, Carter updated the outpost log. He paused, then added one new line under Defense Commander, Kira Valen, trained warrior. Survivor, rebel leader, he smiled. "Yeah, that fits." Outside, her laughter echoed through the dusty air. And in that sound was something stronger than fear. Hope. Rain fell across the red earth, soft and slow. It was the first rain this planet had seen in months. People danced beneath it, laughing, cheering, feeling something fresh touch their skin. But Kyra stood still, face tilted toward the sky, eyes closed. Each drop that touched her felt like a tear from the past being washed away, the collar that once dug into her neck, the chains beneath her smile, the cage behind silken walls. Gone. All of it. Carter stood beside her, silent, watching, his shirt soaked, hair dripping. But his eyes only saw her, the warrior, the survivor, the woman he had once offered a hand to. Now, she needed no rescuing. Later, as the rain cleared, they sat together by the rebuilt stone wall. The stars slowly began peeking out. Carter handed her a box wrapped in cloth. Kyra raised an eyebrow. "What is this?" He didn't answer, just nodded at her to open it. Inside was a ring, simple and smooth, crafted from the ship metal of the first escape vessel she had hidden in. Her eyes widened, fingers trembling as she touched it. "This is from Kellen's ship. I kept a piece," Carter said, smiling softly. "To remember the moment everything changed for both of us." Kyra looked at him. "You're asking?" "I'm not offering chains," he said gently. "I'm offering choice, a life, together. Not because I saved you, but because I saw you." He paused. "And because I love you." Kyra didn't speak right away. She just stared at the ring in her palm, then whispered, "Do you know what marriage meant on my old world?" Carter shook his head. She smiled faintly. It wasn't about ownership. It was about equal ground. It was a promise to protect each other's souls. She placed the ring on her finger. "I want that, with you." Word spread fast through the outpost. That night, under the twin moons, the first human-alien union was celebrated not in grand halls, but in dusty fields filled with light, music, and food. Kyra wore no gown, no jewels, just a simple white robe stitched by the other women. Carter wore his worn uniform, patched. By the hands of children he had rescued, there was no priest, no long speech, just two people standing in front of a fire. She took his hand, he took hers, and they made one promise: no more chains, only choice, only love. The crowd cheered, laughed, some even cried, and for the first time in many lives, there was joy without fear. Later, as the fire faded and people returned to sleep, Kyra and Carter sat on a quiet hilltop. She rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you think they'll come again?" she asked. He nodded. "Someday. A power never forgets what it lost." She closed her eyes, then let them come. But this time, they won't find a servant. They'll find a wife, a warrior, a woman who remembers everything and bows to no one. Carter kissed her forehead, and they'll find me, standing beside her, far away. In empire chambers of black glass and blood-gold thrones, whispers rose of a slave girl who became a rebel queen, of a human who chose love over law, of an outpost that taught the broken how to fight again. The empire was watching, but it was afraid, not of weapons, but of what Kyra now symbolized, that freedom cannot be erased, that one soul rising can awaken. 100 more, and on that quiet planet, where once there was only silence, now there was life, there was love, and standing at the center of it was a woman who had once been called Unit 7P, now known across the stars as Kyra Valen, the wife of fire, the one who rose, the one who chose,